talking with Joe and Mary Lee about the Depression time brought back a lot of memories for me, because I can remember being out here when my dad worked for Mr. Bergner. I might not say that name quite right, but there are still Bergners in this area. And I remember him telling me that he was called Tiny because he's a short man. He only came about to my earlobe. And that he had been running the steam engine. And Joe said that steam engine was not used to plow and so on. It was used to run the threshing machine. And Joe tells me that there was a real good crop, I think he said 1931. And that the farmers weren't happy with the price of grain, and a lot of them put their grain into storage, into small elevators and so on. And that's the money then that they were able to use, the ones that toughed it out and survived, because he said they didn't have much in the way of crops there for several years with this Dust Bowl situation developing, where the topsoil was moving. And you can plant the crop and it'll get up, and if that sand's blowing, it'll just cut that crop right off. And then in the one interview, and Mary Lee mentioned a rabbit drive. I hadn't been aware at all that there were rabbits as a problem back in the dirty 30s until I watched that documentary that was on TV last night. But boy, did that bring back memories of when I was superintendent of schools at Elkhart, Kansas. The neighboring school, Yarborough, was having a rabbit drive one Sunday afternoon. The money that was raised, the rabbits that were killed, were going to be shipped to somebody, I thought, for dog food, but Joe tells me more likely for mink farm food. But at any rate, I don't know how many of us smell cart came down, but I know there's a lot of people out there that I recognized as residents of Elkhart, patrons of the school district. Yeah, I took a ball bat. And the organizers spanned us out over, I don't know, 2 or 3 sections, I suppose. I don't really know. They just told you where to go, follow this line. And on a signal then, we began to move in and talk, be loud, hit a bush or whatever, hit your bats together, make some noise. And yes, you saw some rabbits moving out there in front of you. Not the number that they had in that documentary at all, but you saw rabbits moving out there ahead of you. And pretty soon you just pinch in, and here is a draw, and then at the end of the draw here's fencing, and suddenly those rabbits are inside a fenced-in enclosure, because once it got right down there, you pulled the fence across to close the entrance. And my gosh, it was a brutal thing. We just went in there, and as those rabbits moved, you whacked them. And after they were dead, they were thrown into a pickup and taken away to be bought. I think maybe they were going to get 25 cents a piece. I don't really know. But they raised some money for the high school, Yarborough High School Activity Fund. It's hard to imagine how the cooks and the sleepers, Mary Lee was a sleeper, and hundreds of others, including some of those Elkhart people and others that they had in that documentary, how they managed to tough it out and live through the terrible, terrible dust storms. They called them rollers. That they would roll in. And Mary Lee, by the way, says that when her doctors do her health examinations and check her lungs, they say, "Were you a heavy smoker?" She says, "I never smoked at all in my life." But evidently that dust did the same kind of damage to her lungs, so that when they are looking at her x-rays, they always question her, "Were you a heavy smoker?" Well, I'm going to cut it off there, but I want to tell you again how grateful I am for the cooks and their children and their grandchildren and now their great-grandchildren, and for Dean and Donna Riggs and my brothers and sisters and our children and our grandchildren and great-grandchildren, that our parents didn't take the trek to California. The Cooks families, the Cooks and the Sleepers, toughed it out here. We got to go back to the Enid, Oklahoma area. And Joe pointed out you didn't have to go real far. You know, we drove from the Wichita area out here the day before yesterday and went through Greensburg, but got hit by the tornado recently. That if you got back in that Greensburg, Dodge City area, just that far back east, the dust bowl, the soil was of a different nature, and it didn't blow like it did out here. God bless all of you.